O'Grady's Grill and Bar, combining delicious American food with Irish warmth and hospitality. There's always an O'Grady to welcome you. O'Grady's incorporates the freshest ingredients into signature dishes like braised lamb shepherd's pie, fish and chips, hand-cut steaks, and the best burgers in Stowe. Enjoy O'Grady's cozy full-service bar featuring 14 beers on tap and specialty cocktails. O'Grady's is the perfect place for après-ski or dinner for the family.
It's a new day. Yes, it is.
Wrestling fans, don't you dare be sour. Clap your hands for your new hosts and feel the power. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to War Special Edition. This is the Super Show 4, and it's special. It's not just special in that kind of, you go to Walmart and you see what's on special. It's special as in special that only comes along every once in a while. What's special about it? I'll tell you what it is. I'm Shotgun Shan, also known as the King of Salsa Dancing. I am leading this show today, but I have a very special host. Now, you're used to, if you're listening to War Weekly, you'll hear Luke Force and Sean Cunningham. If you're listening to War Vintage Update, you'll hear myself, Shotgun Shan, and Luke Force. But today we've got a combo that's never been put together. It's kind of like a dream team. It's myself, Shotgun Shan, along with the Commissioner, Sean Cunningham.
Thank
How
you
you
very
doing?
Oh, we're so good. That was awesome. I give you credit on your breathing. I'm impressed that anybody can still do that.
I'm so excited about this, man. This is cool.
Oh my God, we've never done this. This is so insane.
Yeah, we've done the triple shows, the super shows, but we've never done just the two of us sitting around talking. And you know, there's a backstory behind that. Luke Force is out of commission, unfortunately, because of some technical issues in his area. He's going to try to call in. We may get a special correspondence call, but it's just you and me, man. And what a week!
Oh my gosh.
It's just such a good week to be talking about this, to be perfectly honest, because, I mean, we're not going to run out of topics.
No.
And let's put it this way, folks. If you're a WWE fan, you'll probably be happy with what we're talking about this week because it's just WWE. And if you're not a WWE fan, stick around because there's been some interesting stuff. If you haven't been watching, you might want to tune in.
Yeah.
But let's say, Sean, I wanted to ask you this. If you were to just sit down and take the chunk of the past, over the weekend, the Saturday NXT show, the Sunday SummerSlam, and the Monday Raw, take that as a little chunk of wrestling, would you be happy with the state of wrestling these days?
I completely would be happy. I was really impressed with everything that WWE did in terms of getting a direction and making sense of everything and acknowledging that your fan base is a little smarter than you thought.
Yeah, that was exactly the way I felt too. Kind of like if there was somebody that had been kind of messing stuff up in the past, they'd stepped aside and let somebody else work with it, or that the whole creative team had just kind of gotten together and said, what do we need to do to really make this stuff work? And it felt like, for the most part, it worked. I mean, you and I, and we'll get to it when we get there, we have our gripes, and we'll talk about it when we get there. But I'd say overall, I'm still happy.
I am so happy with the majority, possibly with one exception of the Brooklyn crowd from Monday, but we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there when we get there.
We'll get there.
But I mean, it's a great time to be a wrestling fan, to be perfectly honest. And I haven't said that about the WWE product in a while. So It's kind of, it's refreshing, isn't it? I mean, we've gone on about the other things we've liked, but as a WWE fan, it's nice to have both thumbs in the air. So, So why don't we just dive right in by starting with NXT TakeOver Brooklyn? I mean, we have so much to talk about. I doubt we'll probably talk about every match, but I just wanted to rattle off the card and get your thoughts on what happened. It started out with the legendary Jushin Thunder Liger against Tyler Breeze. What did you think of Jushin Thunder Liger appearing in a WWE, an NXT/WWE ring?
Well, they billed it as his first appearance in WWE, and that's the way they hyped it, and that's the way they built it, and that's exactly what it was. Those fans on that first night were so respectful and so good with every part of that, and I was just so impressed that Liger, at this very advanced place in his career, could do as much as he could with Tyler, and it shows how good a talent Tyler Breeze is, too. Just a really strong match, and I was just so excited to see that go as well as it did.
I was thrilled too because, Luke Force and Ernest Matthews and myself saw the ROH New Japan show just recently in Toronto where Liger was there, and he was awesome there too when he fought Dalton Castle. And so it was nice to see that this wasn't just Liger pulling a few things out for this match. I can tell you from seeing him live, he's still got the moves, man, and he still knows how to play that crowd. And that's the reason he's a legend. So I was pretty thrilled with that. The rest of the card, I mean, obviously the main events were a big deal. There were a few things that deserve mention. I liked seeing the Vaudevillains defeating Blake and Murphy because I think that English and Gotch are kind of cool. They have a gimmick that I kind of looked at a bit skeptically when they first took it on. But it really seems to be working with the crowd, and I find them really entertaining. What do you think?
I find that gimmick so refreshing and just so different that when I first saw it as heels, I loved it because it totally worked as a heel, but the crowds eventually just turned them face. Yeah. And it was just something that it's so much fun and so entertaining. And it's just it's almost watching two guys who do wrestling moves that nobody else does.
Yeah, exactly. They've modified their style to be as unique as their gimmick.
I think that's one of the neatest things that I hope. On one hand, I hope they get a push to the main roster because I think it could use it. On the other hand, I'm like, if they go to the main roster, they're going to get wrecked, see the Ascension. And
I'd agree.
I'm so nervous.
I agree with you there. The thing is that NXT's taken on a personality of itself now that I don't think there's any shame in staying there for a while. And I'd like to see them stay there because I think that gimmick works best in an intimate setting with a smaller crowd. I'm not sure how that's going to work in a huge arena when they're up against guys that WWE wants to keep established. So I see what you're saying there, and I agree with you.
Although the crowd in Brooklyn was not a smaller crowd. Let's
be
true about that. They decided, I guess, after the ticket sales went so well initially, they opened up that entire building, and it was full, and it was loud.
Good for NXT, right?
Oh, man, absolutely.
I was so happy to see, and I'm really happy just to see that they've taken that property and kind of made the NXT brand such a valuable resource. I mean, not just as a development, but just to watch on its own. I'm happy with it.
As long as they're able to maintain it to be different, as long as it doesn't start really looking like the main roster show, and you start to not notice differences, that makes me very nervous, and I really hope they don't do that.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And you know what? They've done a good job thus far of keeping it clean. Like even by bringing in guys like Samoa Joe, who we'll talk about in a couple minutes, it's changed. It just feels different than WWE, and it should. And good for them. Good for them. What else happened? Oh, Apollo Crews and Ty Dillinger. It was really just Crews' kind of big premiere match. What do you think of Apollo Crews, the former, was it Uhaa Nation or Uhaa Nation?
Uhaa Nation, and I'll be honest, I don't think I'd ever seen him prior to this. And to see a guy that kind of, I guess, smaller in height anyway, be able to do the power moves and have the look he does and fly, and do almost everything, I'm sure if Vince McMahon saw that, he's kind of foaming at the mouth and drooling right now.
Yeah.
Just such an athlete, and again, it's another one of those, if Vince gets his hands on him, it's going to get wrecked. We're all nervous.
It's going to turn into a Bobby Lashley. That's what I kept thinking.
Yeah, that's exactly where I went to. Yeah. He's a little bit shorter, but it's Bobby Lashley 2.0.
Well, it'll also be that kind of like too horny for his own good type thing with Vince wanting to bring him up too fast, I feel. But, let's keep our fingers crossed on that. Yeah. And shortly after that, we had Samoa Joe and Baron Corbin.
Oh, my gosh.
What did you think of that? Let me tell you, and I watch NXT. I have to admit, I don't keep up to date on every single show. So the thing about this match that surprised me so much was during the lead-in, I was surprised at what a good talker Baron Corbin was. I'd heard a handful of interviews with him before, but he had such huge personality going into this match that I was totally thinking, wow, this guy is a star, man, let alone they're putting him in there with Samoa Joe. What do you think of Joe, since he's moved into the NXT roster?
It was one of those things where I didn't know what they would let Joe do and not do because Joe had built such a reputation. I didn't know if they'd acknowledge that or want to change him into the WWE mold, let's say. What I have seen of Joe, they haven't changed anything, and I think that's partially due to the fact that NXT is run by a different group of people than run Raw and SmackDown. They're being a little more respectful to their fan base who know who Joe is. And I think that's one of the strongest things. And I understand why he's not using the Muscle Buster because of the Tyson Kidd incident largely, I think. But I'm fine with him not using it if they're going to do the Coquina Clutch and do everything else.
Yeah, exactly. Part of what makes Joe work is what he's done before. And I'm just so excited that they've kept so much of the Samoa Joe legend intact. Because I think we all had those worries when Samoa Joe came in, that they were going to change his name or that they were going to rework him in some way. And I kind of thought, like, if you do that, then he's not Samoa Joe. Without the Samoa Joe mystique, he's just another guy. So it's thrilled to see him in there. What did you think of the match in general?
I didn't think Corbin was going to go that long. I thought, is Corbin going to get blown up because he only wrestles like really quick matches? It's like 45 seconds and done when he's on NXT, right? So I'm like, is it going to be another one of these Goldberg situations where if you put him in there for longer than 10 minutes, he's going to get blown up? And he really didn't.
You're right. You know what? He looked, in losing that match, I thought he looked better than he had in winning most matches. And it really was a good test, even in losing to a guy like Joe, who's certainly no shame there, to see him go longer, put on a decent match, and still be strong by the end when he finally got choked out. So, thumbs up to both of those guys. Joe's made the transition, I think, really nicely, and Corbin seems like he might be destined to be a star someday soon.
I would think so.
Yeah. Next match, I think, is going to take up a little bit more time than we've spoken on these previous matches. Bayley and Sasha Banks for the NXT Women's title. They billed it as a co-main event. Now, Balor and Owens went on last, but it really felt like a main event. And, I mean, if you have to wonder about whether or not NXT Women's Wrestling is at the pinnacle of excellence, you watch this match, and I think you'll have your answer. What did you think? First of all, did you think Bayley was going to take it? And second of all, what did you think about the way the match played out?
I don't know if you could have done that any better. Everything that they did to build Bayley, to build the story, to go to that match, and politically, I think we all know why Bayley's been beating all those girls. Those are every one of the girls that she beat leading into the match with Sasha Banks went to the main roster, and they treat NXT almost like the old territory rule is, if you're leaving, you have to job on your way out. That's the way NXT's been handled all the way through. So politically, I think we all knew that Bayley was going to take the match.
Yeah. Because
Sasha will become part of the main roster, and you'll see less and less on NXT. That being said, the emotion that was in that match and what those two women did in that match, that they're 80% of the roster up on Raw and SmackDown can't duplicate what they did.
I agree. And because you know what? The thing I hate is when people say, wow, it was really good for a women's match. And I'm like, that is so insulting. It has nothing to do with it being a women's match. You couldn't get, as you said, 80% of the guys on the main roster, you couldn't put together and have them play out a match that was that tidy and that tight and that emotional and that exciting. And I mean, I don't want to spoil the rest of this card for those who haven't seen it yet, but I think that Balor and Owens follow this match, and that was no fault of their own. It was just that it was so excellent, and the crowd, even just watching it, here, I was kind of spent by the end of that match, and really seeing, sorry, go ahead.
And that was the whole thing I was going to agree with you. Watching Bayley and Sasha and watching Bayley win and the emotion that evoked from not only the building, but just them in doing the match was, I did feel bad for Balor and Owens. They had to follow that.
Yeah, and that's saying something, isn't it? Because, I mean, how long – you don't have to go back very far to find a time when the women's match on any WWE product was just filler between – like a buffer between main events, right? And nowadays, it's kind of almost been flipped. With the level of excellence that they've pulled out, that really has become the main focus. And you had to love that moment at the very end when Bayley is celebrating and Becky and Charlotte come down, and then Sasha gets up and hugs her as well, and you've got all four of them with their arms in the air. I mean, that was a beautiful moment.
Well, and they did, I don't know whether, I can't remember whether it made air, but I know I saw it after, was they did the four fingers.
Yeah, it did make air.
It did make air, okay, it did. They did, and that's clearly what those four women want to do. At some point down the line, they want to do the Four Horsewomen gimmick so desperately, and you can see it.
Exactly. And it'll be fantastic. The only issue will be they're going to have to get another group of women that can actually go with them to be their opponents if they do a stable versus stable at some point.
That's a whole other conversation that we'll have to have later on in the show, I think.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, those four together are extraordinary. I'm a huge fan of all four of them. And again, we'll talk about them a little bit more when we move on. But fantastic match. Congratulations to Bayley. She's made that character work. The whole I'm a hugger thing. And, in the wrong hands, that would have just been a flop and an embarrassment. But she's fantastic and good for her for achieving what she did. Now we're into the main event. Finn Balor, Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens, the man who's playing both sides of the between NXT and WWE. He seems to be having great matches in both divisions. And Finn Balor. And now, am I remembering this correctly, Sean? This was Finn Balor's first ladder match. Is that what he'd said?
Yeah, that's what they had said, and that shocks me if that's true. But that at least the first ladder match that we know of in a WWE sense. I don't know if there was one at any other point in his career. Maybe not. I know they're not common in Japan.
Yeah, that's true. No, they don't do. You don't really see that kind of stuff in Japan. So it's highly possible that this is his first, at least high profile ladder match. And with that being said, I thought he did a fantastic job, and I think Owens did a fantastic job. It wasn't the most brutal ladder match I've ever seen, but I think there were a lot of reasons for that. For starters, because again, it was Balor's supposedly first major ladder match, and the other was that Owens was going to be expected to wrestle in what turned out to be a fantastic contest with Cesaro the very next night. But that being said, I wasn't disappointed in this match at all. Any spots that stood out for you?
The major one that stood out for me, and I'm only going to bring it up because it's like I've watched so much of this week that it's starting to blur. The finish where Balor actually did the coup de grace, I'm going, they're not going to let him. Owens isn't going to take that off the top of a ladder, is he?
I still don't understand the physics of how a person doesn't die from that move. And usually I can understand the physics of most of it. This one I can't. I look at it, I'm like, I don't care if the opponent's actually sitting up when he does it, like if he's actually leaning up so he's not taking full the impact on the mat. I don't care. That just looks like it shatters your sternum.
Yeah.
Oh my God. But great match. But as I said, by the time I watched it, I was tired. I don't know how you were feeling.
I was wiped.
Yeah, the fans were still into it. They still got a nice response and the kind of response they deserved, and it was a great match. I went back and watched it a second time and appreciated it more the second time through. But good for Balor. And the funny thing was, and I don't know if you'd read this on some of the spoilers, but Owens had been showing up at some of the tapings that are supposed to come out after this with the NXT title.
But that was clearly a tease, and you remember NXT is a TV show, as opposed to Raw is edited.
Yeah, exactly. So that was it was a nice little switch on them. I mean, I really felt like Owens was going to take it back, and I was a little bit upset about that because I don't want Owens kind of back treading at this point. I think he needs to move forward. But so that was NXT Brooklyn. Any other thoughts about that card?
Oh my God! Well, they did make one announcement. I'm excited because you know me, I'm an old school fan. They announced a tag team tournament.
Yeah, the Dusty Invitational.
The Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Invitational that they're going to do, I guess, over TV over the next month and a half or so. I am excited just because I am a fan of tournaments and anything with you can rebuild rankings, you can do a lot of things. The one thing about the NXT Tag Team division, they don't have a lot of teams and they don't have a lot of teams. So they've not really built like a hierarchy of teams.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not that there's a lack of depth of talent in NXT, but a lack of depth and talent in teams. I agree with you. There's only a few really, really strong teams, so that will be an issue. But it sounds like the people they've put together, there's some interesting combinations.
I haven't read through the list yet. I was also under the impression, are they going to let teams from the main roster come back down for like one night to do an NXT match for the sake of this tournament?
Yeah, I believe that they are. But I guess we'll see as it plays out. I think it would make sense, to take at least the guys that were well established in NXT and have them come back for this.
Lucha Dragons and the Ascension and teams like that.
Yeah. I certainly Lucha Dragons I would like to see come back down. I don't think Ascension has the same standing that Lucha Dragons have right now, just because they kind of fumbled at the beginning. But I would love to see both teams come back down and maybe recapture a bit of the magic they had in NXT. But yeah, it looks like a great tournament. Now, do you remember how long this plays out over? When are the finals?
The finals they said we're on October 7th, and that'll be the next TakeOver special. So,
oh, nice.
So it'll be a good 6 weeks of television to kind of build the tournament. They said September 2nd till October the 7th. So that'll be a nice long stretch of TV. Like I said, 5 or 6 weeks by my count to get that in. So that'll be exciting.
Is it single elimination or is it round robin?
I think it's going to be single elimination tournament. I've never seen WWE or any North American promotion do a G1 style tournament. Although I would love to see it someday. We haven't seen it yet.
I agree. Yeah, I agree with you there. I'm not sure that WWE's audience is trained yet to follow standings and look at statistics. So great show, NXT Brooklyn, and as you said, something great coming out of it with the Dusty Invitational. I have nothing but good things to say about it. Before we move on to SummerSlam, I'm going to reach into the mailbag. We've got a letter here that's actually very interesting. They raise an interesting question, and I thought maybe you and I could talk about it for a moment.
All right.
This is from our friends Carlos Monzon at the 11th Street Diner, home of the world-famous chain link onion rings. Hey, Carlos, thanks for writing in. Carlos says, WWE's past relationship with Donald Trump is well documented. With Trump now alienating Latino and female voters, can you see WWE pulling away from their relationship with Trump in order to protect that share of WWE's audience? What do you think about that, Sean? I think something was mentioned on on the Raw from this week, a joke made at Donald Trump's expense. Any thoughts on that?
I think WWE is a very smart company in terms of they know when to distance themselves away from somebody when it gets a little too hot and heated. Yeah. WWE right now would be smart to stay away from any direct connection with Donald Trump. I think you can make a joke about him on the air, and the announcers make jokes about everything, where that person's been involved with the company or not.
Yeah.
Donald Trump is a hot topic, but I think to have Donald on the show right now or any other connection more than making the odd wisecrack about how crazy he's being right now would be a mistake. And I think WWE would be very smart to stay with him. The other part of it is, for sake of argument, for those who follow a little bit of what's going on, is if he ends up running as an independent and not as a Republican, WWE will probably stay away from him that much more because the McMahons are very strong Republican contributors and so on.
Yeah, I agree. And plus, again, as Carlos said here, with him alienating Latinos and females, those are big parts of what WWE is trying to build in their audience right now. Part of the PG era is making it sort of family friendly and bringing in more female members of their audience. And again, they've always worked to break that Latino audience and can bring more people in. So I agree. Good question, Carlos. And I think we've covered it there. I do think that they're going to have to be very careful. I think they need to be careful about a lot of things, honestly. As soon as they switched over to a PG type product, not just as far as the ratings, but as far as their relationship with the fans go that are in that demographic, I think they need to be careful what they do outside of the wrestling world. And speaking of politics, we're moving into SummerSlam. The host of SummerSlam, Jon Stewart. When they first announced Jon Stewart, I kind of crossed my eyes and went, Jon Stewart, what's he doing on SummerSlam? But he ended up being a rather significant part of the show, for good or for bad. What did you think of that opening segment, the opening SummerSlam segment he did with Foley?
I was confused initially with it. I'm like, okay, why are you're doing a 4 show and you're killing the first 7 minutes with Jon Stewart and Mick Foley. Little did I know how big a role Jon Stewart was going to play. And I will be the one, I guess, to come out. I will rave about Jon Stewart. If Jon Stewart wants to come back any show he wants to, let him come back.
He really invested himself, didn't he? I mean, we'll get into what actually happened later on, but he really invested himself in that character and in that show. He popped up so many times. He did the comedy. He showed that he's a wrestling fan and that he had an investment in saying that, he was a big fan of the streak, and he was upset that Taker had beaten Brock, or that Brock had beaten Taker to break the streak. He also pointed out that Ric Flair's record should not be beaten, as Cena was going into his big championship match with Seth Rollins.
Oh my gosh! How good was that?
Yeah, but we'll get there in just a sec. We're going to skim over a little bit here. Sheamus and Randy Orton, not a bad match. I can't complain about it. It was what they always do, and Sheamus won it clean, which I was a little bit surprised about. Although I just read a report today saying that Randy Orton is looking to start working a limited schedule, so maybe having Sheamus go over him was part of that. If certainly Randy's deserves it, and he's earned it if that's the case. But
he may need a bit of a break. He might be a bit of a burn. We don't know about injuries. I noticed he started wearing elbow pads and knee pads within the last year or so, and I wondered about that because up until that time he wasn't wearing it.
Yeah, that's a good point. And once those joints start to go, then you really do need to slow down. So, but yeah, fine match. I have no issues with Sheamus winning that. It was kind of a toss-up. What do you think?
Well, the other thing is he's holding that briefcase.
Yeah.
They've got to do something with that at some point, and you've got to keep him strong to make him look credible when he does win, when he does cash it.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of a predicament that they run into now, isn't it? You either have the briefcase holder look really strong so that at any moment he could take it and the fans are supposed to accept it, or you kind of play him down a little bit, keep him in the background so people forget he's got it. I think that this is the right way to go with Sheamus, and let's see what happens. But then, sorry?
No, go ahead.
The next match was one that I was actually impressed with beyond what my expectations were going in. It was the tag title match. 4 teams involved. The New Day, the Primetime Players, the Lucha Dragons, and Los Matadores. And my boys, the New Day won. I don't know. Look, I'm going to rave about these guys, and even more so when we get to Raw. But these guys have kind of pulled themselves out of the abyss. Especially Kofi Kingston. I mean, Kofi was in limbo for 10 years?
It seemed that way.
It seemed like it. Like he should have been a big guy. They never did anything with him. He's been up and he's down. Big E kind of had a very kind of a fizzled, his debut kind of fizzled out. And Xavier Woods, they've kind of kept on the sidelines. But put the 3 of them together, the guys are magic. They cut a promo at the beginning of that.
Oh, good. You are going to talk about this.
Oh, I'm going to talk about all their promos. In fact, if I could just talk about their promos, I'd be happy. But the promos that they did, the introduction to this match, when they brought out their pitch pipes,
and they so good.
And they're singing Jay-Z's New York song, but with
Empire State of Mind. Their own version.
Empire State of Mind. Yeah. And singing the New Day, just singing their New Day lyrics over it. And I mean, it's the combination of them being terrible singers and Big E being a fantastic dancer maybe he's a terrible dancer, but it looks good. And just seeing these guys, they're so wildly entertaining. And the part of it that I love so much is how much fun they seem to be having. That's what makes the difference. When you see the guys out there, they're going crazy. The fans are into it and they're having fun. I couldn't be happier with that. And the other side of this is that I think you'll remember when they first decided to put this team together as a face team, it was apparently pitched to them that they'd be preachers and they'd be singing and dancing. And, the guys weren't that happy with it because it really was kind of a black stereotype. They've managed to turn that stereotype on its ear now in that they are kind of doing singing and dancing, but in a funny way, in more of an ironic, silly way. And I think they're over huge with the crowd.
They absolutely are. The other thing is, I don't think they've done anything different from being the heel characters to being the baby characters. The issue became they brought them out as baby faces and they got booed out of buildings for weeks. So you had no choice but to turn them heel, but you did it so subtly that to me it's the same character. It's just 100 times better.
Yeah, 100 and free. They're just free to be as stupid. Xavier Woods is the new Jimmy Hart. You hear him at ringside, you hear his voice just chattering constantly, right?
Oh my God.
He's a fantastic, fantastic character. Anyway, New Day come out on top, which means we get lots more New Day promos. I mean, I love Kofi Kingston, fantastic wrestler. All 3 of those guys are fantastic wrestlers, but when they come out, I can't wait to hear them talk. There haven't been a lot of people that I felt that way about. So, thumbs up to those guys.
Totally awesome.
Totally.
Can I point out Kofi's celebration when he got the pin?
Yeah.
I can't even describe it. You just need to go see it. Go find it. I'm sure it's everywhere on the internet. I can't even physically describe it in words.
The beauty of it too. Here's the beauty of it is that these guys have gotten over now not through anything really that the back office has done to kind of put them over, giving them ideas. These are just guys having fun, being silly, showing a huge amount of personality. This is going to change their careers going forward forever. It doesn't matter if WWE holds them down. It doesn't matter if they fizzle out. People will always know what they're capable of, and there's no excuse not to do something with them, something big with them now. So I think I see all these guys that their careers will be changed going forward. What do you think?
I completely agree. I just hope you don't make the mistake of breaking them up.
Yeah, certainly not anytime soon, because the three of them together are a riot. Oh. So good for those guys. We've got. What did you think the deal was with Primetime Players even holding the championship? Because they almost seemed like they were just placeholders.
Yeah.
It didn't seem like they were committed to them, and I kind of wonder if it was more because Darren Young's name was in the news a lot, and obviously WWE is sending him to a lot of the sort of gay and lesbian
transgender stuff.
Yeah, transgender things. Yeah, sending to all of the different events, and maybe wanting to keep Darren Young's face out there. And
I completely agree, except they didn't give them any mic time to say any of that within the product or anything.
I agree.
They were just there.
Yeah, they were just there. And you know what the funny thing is that they're both decent talkers. Titus is a great talker, and Darren Young just has a cool voice. Yeah. I love his voice, and I just wish they would have given them more time to talk and maybe let a little bit more of their personality out. But
I agree.
Moving along, Dolph Ziggler with Lana versus Rusev with Summer Rae ends in a double countout. I don't mind a double count out sometimes. You don't get it very often. They don't use that finish anymore. I just wish it had been a little bit more deserved. Like I don't mind when there's a double count out because both guys are wrecked and they can't make it back in the ring. This just seemed like they were kind of rushing it along a little bit. But what did you think of the finish?
You know what? I really liked the double count out finish. I've read a lot of reports. People complaining, why are you doing it on pay-per-view? Why aren't you doing it on TV? You know what? The double countout was used. It's setting up another match.
Exactly. People complain about this stuff, but you're kind of like, if you're going to do an ongoing feud, some of them have to have a weird ending. It's fine if you're just doing 1 or 2 matches. But if you're having a feud that you're planning to carry out over 3 or 4 months, some of them have to end inconclusively. I have no problem with that if it's once or twice, and if it pushes the product forward and pushes the feud forward. So I don't have any complaints about that. I just wish... No. It felt like they didn't have an awful lot of time compared to other people, but
no, and they didn't. I think that was part of it. I started to wonder if they got into a time issue at that point and then had to correct it. But I also know that they're setting up a mixed tag match down the line too. So
yeah, they kind of telegraphed that. I mean, they've been kind of setting that up. I don't know what Lana can do. I don't believe Lana's a wrestler.
No.
But Summer Rae never really impressed me either. So I guess we just kind of see what happens when they go there. But Ziggler and Rusev. The 2 guys can go, so let it continue.
Yeah.
Our next match was again another surprise. Neville and Stephen Amell, also known as TV's Green Arrow, or Arrow, I guess as it is. I knew him as Green Arrow back in the comic book days. He's just Arrow now.
Arrow now.
And he's against King Barrett, and I will say that King Barrett's partner may be the most dedicated man in wrestling show business.
Yeah.
Cody Rhodes as Stardust, and Cody Rhodes is one guy that deserves a medal. If they give out medals for their soldiers in WWE, one of them needs to go to Cody Rhodes / Stardust, because this guy commits himself 100% to any piece of crap character that they give him. It doesn't matter what it is. You can look at the beginning of his career all the way through. He is so into it, and with Stardust, he's just gone kind of mental.
It's so good.
It is so good. You're right. It's a level of character and of dedication you don't see very often.
No, but I need to tell a story about this match, actually, before this match.
Of course.
I have friends and family that have been around me forever. I've been a wrestling fan for most of my life. I have a cousin who called me up on Sunday afternoon and said, I need to see the Stephen Amell match. I said, okay, how are you going to do that? I said, okay, we all have iPhones now. I sat in front of my TV watching the match, holding my phone up to the screen with him on FaceTime so that he could see the Stephen Amell match.
Really? See, I had been saying that I didn't think there was a big crossover, that he was going to draw a lot in. But obviously I'm wrong, because you've actually got a real, honest to God eyewitness testimony of somebody wanting to see that match. Yeah. So that's, I guess I was wrong, and I will eat it on this one, man. I will eat it on this one. And you know what else I'll eat it on is that Stephen Amell really put on a decent show for a guy that's not a wrestler. I don't like when they bring in a non-wrestler and have them out-wrestle somebody who does it for a living. But in this case, he didn't do that much, but what he did I thought was good. What did you think of his performance?
I thought his performance was really strong. I thought the way they booked him and the way he was positioned in the match was next to perfect. Like, you couldn't have done it better. He didn't get the pinfall. He didn't get beat up so bad that it looked like he hurt himself. He athletically has enough talent to be able to move and look okay. Like, it doesn't look horrible. It didn't look sloppy. So I think they did everything they could have done. The way they even booked it, and I don't know that they would ever do this, you could have come back and had Stardust challenge Stephen Amell to a singles match.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. I think people were impressed enough with his performance that may happen. And good for Cody to be involved in an angle that's getting that kind of attention, and good for Neville too. I think it was good for everybody involved, although King Barrett's off making a movie now, so he's not going to get the fallout on that. But good for them. I stand corrected again, as I stood corrected on most issues of this show. I was critical of it being a 4-hour show. I thought it was going to be like WrestleMania, and they'd throw in a kind of a meaningless musical guest and a bunch of stupid skits, and they didn't. They held to 10 matches, and they did a decent job. Ryback in the next match, Ryback defeated Big Show and The Miz, defending his IC title. It was what it was.
It was.
The Ryback train rolls on, and good for him. I like Ryback, and I think he has a lot of potential. I don't know if Big Show and The Miz were the best way to showcase that, but the match wasn't awful. It was just it was kind of a low point of the show, but I don't think in that sense it was awful. What were your feelings?
It was a match. It was booked the way a 3-way with those type of guys should be booked. It unfortunately suffered from bad promotion because Ryback, it was supposed to happen last month, and Ryback got hurt.
Yeah.
And they couldn't re-strengthen it in time. They had to put the match out, but they couldn't strengthen the booking again quickly enough before SummerSlam to make it meaningful. I'll admit it, that was my dinner break.
Yeah, I think you're right there. It felt like it was just kind of dangling. It didn't feel like it was really a big part of the show. It was just tacked on. So, good for Ryback for continuing. I'm glad to see that his health is back. I think he's got a decent career ahead of him, but the match itself was not a big one. The next match we saw was Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose against Bray Wyatt and Luke Harper. It was your typical kind of wild tag team match between these guys. I think that the real news about these four happened on Raw the next night, and we'll get there in a moment. Yeah. The match itself was fine, although I'll have to say I was really surprised to see Wyatt get pinned. I thought that Harper would get pinned.
I did too. It was a little shocking. But then again, like I said, after Monday, everything changes again. Exactly. I loved this match, and I love these four guys in the ring together. I could watch them fight forever. It's just, this match just needs to keep happening and happening and happening over and over again.
I agree with you.
It's just a brawl.
I agree, and you know what the beauty of it is? It sort of fulfills that need I had for the Shield Wyatt's feud to continue. Yeah. I was kind of heartbroken when they split the Shield so early because I was like, oh, no, I wanted there to be this escalating war with the Wyatts, and I wanted it to be kind of span all these different, like maybe a year with a lot of crazy matches. And we never got to see that, but this kind of captures the same energy of that, and good for them. Reigns and Ambrose are a great team.
Oh my God, so good.
Yeah, they complement each other really well. This is where Reigns' strength is. And, we've talked a lot about how poor Roman has got thrown to the wolves, by getting pushed ahead too quickly and faltering. But this is where he belongs. Keep these guys together. Build this program. And I think that Reigns can be rehabilitated at some point.
I hope so, but that Brooklyn crowd wanted no part of it.
I know. I feel so bad for him because, leave him alone now. He's not doing anything wrong now, right? It wasn't his fault before when they were pushing him over all the guys that really deserved it. That wasn't his call. You aren't going to say to your boss, no, I'm not going to wrestle the main event of WrestleMania. You're just going to go and take your lumps, right? But now he's doing what he's supposed to be doing. He's fighting in the mid card. He's fighting in great matches, and he's letting Ambrose have a lot of the spotlight. Give the guy a break. If you're listening out there, folks, and you're going to see WWE live, give Reigns a break until he does something where he deserves it. So, yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about these four guys in a few moments. But I think that the card up to this point was pretty strong, and it just seemed to roll on from there because our next match was the winner takes all WWE World Heavyweight Champion Seth Rollins against U.S. Champion John Cena. And what do we say about this match? Wacky finish. Not that I didn't like it, but I like to be surprised. What do you think?
It was the words out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Okay, and can I comment on Seth Rollins looking like a Power Ranger?
Yeah.
Can we do that?
I love it. You know what? He did look like a Power Ranger.
The white Power Ranger. I saw all the memes the next morning, but it's like, where did he get those? Damn! Oh my God!
I love them though. I agree they were shocking, but it was almost like a reverse version of his normal tights. Too many guys are wearing black all the time. Yeah. I hope Rollins keeps up with the white because it makes him seem almost like, I'm the chosen one and I'm the pristine. Totally. It was different because nobody really wears white, at least not like that. He was solid head to toe white.
So. That was like Stormtrooper-esque. That's that one.
Yeah, exactly. So I love that I love when they debut new gear on somebody significant when it's really weird because it always, it shakes it up a little bit. The match itself, I don't have an awful lot of complaints. I think that Seth Rollins showed more in this match than he's shown in the rest of his title reign combined as far as his versatility. And I saw him do a Eddie Guerrero frog splash. Yeah. I saw him do the roll. When Cena does they do the thing where Cena rolls through and holds the guy and lifts him up and shows how strong he is and throws him up on his shoulders. I never thought that Rollins would be able to do the same thing, but they let him do it, showing that he's a strong guy too.
Yeah, and that was crazy. I love the finishing move thief, Seth Rollins, because that's what he is. I love it. Did the RKO to Orton and stole the AA from Cena, and I was like, yes,
exactly. And did it well. But I mean, I think there's an art to stealing a finisher. You have to make it look good, but you can't make it look exactly like the guy you're stealing it from, or else it really diminishes them. And Rollins did that right. I mean, it was subtle differences, but when you watched his AA, it was just a little bit different. It didn't look like it hit quite as hard, and that's the way you need to do it. But for those of you that didn't see the match, in the closing moments, Jon Stewart comes down while the ref knocked out or distracted?
Ref was knocked out.
Ref was knocked out. Jon Stewart comes down. We're assuming he's coming in to attack Seth Rollins. Instead, he turns on John Cena, hits Cena with the chair. Rollins gets the pedigree onto the chair and pins Cena. And we're left wondering what the hell, and we will get to the what the hell when we get to the Raw wrap-up for the next show.
That explanation was awesome.
It actually, you know what? When he first said it, and we'll do it when we get there, it made so much sense that I didn't like it for a moment. And then I was like, no, that actually makes sense. I'm so used to shit not making sense on this show that when I see something that does make sense, I turn my nose up at it. So shame on me. I'm slapping my own hand right now. I'm going to be a bit more sensible going forward. But I thought that the match was good, considering that they put it, it wasn't in the middle. It was in the upper middle of the card. But I thought that they did a decent job. It might be a good time to point out that I thought the pacing of the entire show was good.
Oh my God, that pacing was so good. They knew where to put the low point in the middle, and everything just kind of crescendoed after the world title match.
Exactly.
I can't, we'll just go through it because I can't do it justice in 15 words to what they did.
Oh yeah, exactly. But they did such a fantastic job of picking everybody, of picking these matches and positioning them so that you had a great high, then you had a little bit of a rest, then you had a great high, then you had a little bit of a rest. I'd love to actually map it out on a flowchart and actually kind of hit the peaks on that show because it would be fantastic.
But there was a lot of them.
There was a lot of peaks, and that's saying something for a show of that length. They picked a lot of moments and they made some really great moments out of it. So the next match I think fell into that category as well. It was Team PCB, Paige, Charlotte, and Becky against Team Bella, Nikki Brie and Alicia Fox, and Team BAD, Naomi, Sasha Banks, and Tamina. And again, this kind of carried forward that whole notion that we're seeing in NXT of the girls putting on these great shows and being, top tier talents. It was an interesting format for it too, because you don't see triple threats between three factions very often. What were your highlights of this match?
The highlights of this match, I'm going to make 2 points. A, the girls that are from NXT are so ridiculously good it is crazy. And 2, the fact that the Bellas and Alicia Fox, to a lesser extent, have had to up their game, and you can see it now. It wasn't like when you first saw it a couple weeks ago, and it was like the NXT girls were wrestling circles around the Bellas. The Bellas have decided to put their work shoes on and try and keep up with these girls, and good for them.
Exactly, good for the product, right? As soon as you bring these top level athletes in, everybody else has to step up, or else they end up looking, like schmucks. And I don't even blame the girls in the WWE roster that have kind of let their skills slide. There wasn't an awful lot for them to do, and people weren't paying much attention. Now they are. So I think the whole product's going to really go up as a result of this. I think that the quality that you see is going to be increasing on a weekly basis. So good for them. What did you think of the finish?
I liked the finish. They clearly want to push Charlotte, and I understand why. The crowd seem to have a different idea. The crowds have a different idea in general, and then, of course, Monday they had an even more different idea. Yeah. But we'll get to that, too. And a subsequent response.
Yes, exactly.
To the Monday crowd. But they want to push Charlotte. I'm fine with it. I get it. They're still not going to beat Nikki, and I think that's fine, because they're trying to build up that Divas title somehow, too.
Yeah,
that's smart.
They very quietly made that title a title worth watching now, right? It's not just the competition that's coming in, but she's held it for so long that it's actually seeming like it's worth something now. So good for them. I see only good things for the Divas coming forward as a result. The next match, I think you and I can agree.
Oh my gosh!
May not have been a main event, but boy, it felt like it. Kevin Owens against Cesaro. Kevin Owens coming off of his loss to Finn Balor the night before. What can we say about this match?
Other than it was awesome, and those two guys are a little crazy.
Talk about working stiff, eh?
Oh my gosh.
I mean, Cesaro hit those European uppercuts. Some of them just looked like they were taking Owens' chest and head right off of his body.
I was pretty sure Owens was going to spit teeth.
Yeah, I was too. There were quite a few moments, and again, Owens pulling out all the stops. Owens ends up winning, and rightfully so, because I think after coming off that loss to Balor, Owens really needed to win. But the good news is, I'm pretty sure this feud's continuing, and I think we're going to see a lot more of those two in the ring together.
I will say this now, and I said it to you guys off air. I believe completely and wholeheartedly that within a year, those two guys will be the main event.
I agree with you. I agree they will be either main event or they'll be in the scramble at the very, very top for whoever's holding that title. Owens and Cesaro, they have their own style, they have their own look, they do their own thing, and they do it well. And the great thing is that the fans are responding, and that can only mean good things for both those guys and for us watching. So, yeah, Kevin Owens going over Cesaro. But it's the beginning. The first shots are fired. Let's see where it goes from here. Now we've got the main event.
Oh.
One of the main reasons our dear co-host Luke Forrest bowed out of this show was because Sean and I had opinions about this match that he did not like. No, that's not necessarily true. I mean, he was certainly upset. He maybe when he calls in, we'll ask him. Yeah, the build to this match obviously was a bit weird. Undertaker seemingly coming back after a very long time to take exception to Brock bragging about beating him a year and a half earlier, even though Brock had kind of stopped bragging about it for the most part over the past 6 months. And then they've had Undertaker run around low-blowing Brock, kind of being a heel, but the fans aren't kind of going for it.
No.
It's kind of been a weird thing as they go in, because here's how I feel about it. And before we get into the match itself, here's why I've been taking exception to this feud. You've got the biggest star on your show in Brock Lesnar, and granted, he's only there part-time, but I don't think anybody has a presence like Brock Lesnar. And I don't think anybody is as big a draw as Brock Lesnar. So you've got your biggest guy in Brock Lesnar, who's a face, or who's a heel that people love so much that he might as well be a face with him and Heyman. In fact, he may have done a face turn here somewhere that I didn't notice, but it was a little convoluted. He'd
been a face the month before.
Yeah, I know. It's getting. I mean, as he fought, but even when he was fighting Seth, he hasn't changed.
No,
he's still the same beast. He's still the same monster. So then you put him up against The Undertaker, who is a legend. Fans are kind of conditioned not to boo The Undertaker, particularly at this stage, just out of respect. And you have him coming in, he's whining about things, he's low-blowing people, and then kind of, well, let's put it this way. Brock Lesnar threw The Undertaker around for 20 minutes at WrestleMania when he broke the streak. Kind of embarrassed him, and to be understood, Undertaker had a concussion, and that's just the way the match played out. But it made Brock a monster. It rehabilitated Brock to the point that he was able to go and demolish Cena at SummerSlam later after that, a year ago, and become the creature that he is now. I take a little bit of exception to a guy, even the status of The Undertaker, who's 50 years old, and let's do the math here. He's 50 years old. He's been wrestling for 31 years. He's 6'10", 300 pounds. Your body can't really hold up to that. Let's try to suspend disbelief here. Your body can't hold up to that. Putting that guy in against the guy who you're billing as the massive beast of your company, and having him even be able to compete at any level with him is kind of weird. I was a little bit put off by that. What do you think?
I agree with that to a large extent. But even what I noticed in the match, I don't know whether this was Taker pulling or Brock not selling. There were points where Taker's throwing punches, and I'm like, this doesn't look convincing.
Yeah.
When the match stops looking physically convincing, there's a big, big red flag there.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I don't say that as any disrespect to the Taker, because by God, this man has earned it. And like I said, he's 50 years old. Let's be realistic here. He should be able to, he should have some diminished skills, and we'll let them go. He still looked fantastic, and I won't complain about the match. But you're right. There was something about it that just didn't feel right. And the comparison that I drew was, I can remember as a kid watching those great Coliseum videos and watching a match from, I think it was 1986 or 1987, where Randy Savage was fighting Bruno Sammartino. Bruno had come out of retirement to fight Randy. And I remember watching Randy sell to Bruno and going, wow, even though Bruno was a legend, he shouldn't be beating up Macho at this point. Macho shouldn't be selling for Bruno. And that's kind of the way I felt about Taker and Brock. Yeah, Taker's a legend, and he's awesome, and he's still fantastic. But against the guy that you've built as an unbeatable beast, he really shouldn't be going over Brock in any way.
Well, let me put this in comparison to earlier this year. I understand Taker beating down Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania. Makes total sense, looks credible, looks convincing. Okay? You've built Brock to be superhuman, physically. And he legitimately probably is. Then you have Taker trying to throw punches, and it's like, Taker, unfortunately, looks old. Yeah. Physically old. And I know the comparisons are going to be made. We're going to talk about Sting later on, and that's beating up Seth Rollins, and that's a whole other debate. But, Taker looked weary and war-beaten. And not because Brock did anything to him. He looked like that walking in.
I agree. There was just a different air to it, and I don't want to criticize him because, again, he's earned the place in wrestling that he has. But I think it's time to go soon, because I think if you don't, at his age, with the mileage that he's put on, and not just the fact that he's 50 years old, but by God, the man's almost 7 feet tall and almost 300 pounds. Your joints aren't really meant to carry that kind of weight in any kind of athletic form for that long. So, if he doesn't get out soon, I have a feeling that there may be a match down the road where he'll look back and wish that he had. Yeah. And we've seen those matches from lots of people. I don't want to see them from Taker.
No, but I agree completely. But we should talk about the finish of this match.
Exactly. Tell me about the finish.
The finish, we went very MMA, and it went very submission style. And at one point, Brock had the armbar, which I'm not going to try and pronounce right now. The Kimura lock. Sorry, I had something else in my head. The Kimura lock, and the referee was looking at Brock's shoulders because Brock's shoulders were down the mat, and then all of a sudden the bell rang. And I will admit this: when I saw it at full speed at first, I didn't see it. But the bell rang, and the referee's like, "Why is the bell ringing? I didn't call for the bell." And so they restart the match. Taker hits a low blow on Brock, puts him in the Hell's Gate chokehold, triangle choke, and Brock passes out. And that is how Taker won the match. When you look at it on replay, it literally, for me, I don't know about you, I had to look at it on replay to even see it. That Taker had tapped out to the Kimura lock. The timekeeper saw it. Everybody else saw it except the referee.
It was an interesting finish. A lot of people have complained about it. I think it was interesting because it allows Brock to keep at least some of his momentum, and it also lets Taker at least come out of this match with what you might call a victory. Again, it convolutes that whole, is Taker a heel, is Taker a face? He certainly seems like a bit of a whiny heel at this point. But interesting finish. Certainly it looks like it's setting up a third match. I'm not sure I want to see it just for Taker's sake. But, I guess my feeling is maybe this builds to WrestleMania and Brock retires Taker next year.
And I think that's the way everything lays out.
It looks the way it lays out, but we'll have to keep our fingers crossed that it works out well. I just don't want it to work out badly for anybody. So, no. And that was the tail end of SummerSlam. Overall, like I said, 4-hour show. I have no complaints. It was top to bottom wrestling. There was a few little skits in between, but it was top to bottom wrestling, and that was refreshing, I thought.
No, absolutely. And even I felt Jon Stewart was used properly to do the right stuff. He went in talked about Taker and Brock in the beginning. He had the interaction with Paul Heyman in the middle of the show, which was hilarious. Exactly. There's not even words to describe it. And then being involved in the Cena Rollins match, which justified everything going backwards with Seth Rollins and the Daily Show and everything else. And then he came out Monday night looking like a heel, and it was awesome.
He did. Let's talk right about that. Let's go right into it. Stewart comes out and he explains why he did what he did. Do you want to share that with the audience, Sean?
I was so happy with this because it followed common sense, logic, and his own opinion. I was even impressed with the fact that he said the word wrestling a couple of times. Because that's a bad word in WWE. We all know that. Yeah. He said wrestling several times over the 2 days. What I liked was he came out and said, I didn't want John Cena to beat Ric Flair's streak. Period.
Exactly. And they established this by him complaining about Brock beating Taker's streak. Like, these things really mattered to him, right?
Yeah.
They started that off at SummerSlam. And then Stewart comes out and goes, I just didn't want Cena to break it. And what I also loved about this was that as Stewart's apologizing and kind of pointing out that, yes, it meant that Rollins won, he's going, well, it was a bad call. I'm sorry. I wasn't thinking. It was a bad call. So not only does he do it and justify it, but then he realizes and acknowledges the fact that it was a mistake. So again, like at the moment I was like, what are they doing here? They're following common sense, but now I love it. So thank goodness that they did.
And just the common sense, like the funniest line of that whole promo was actually before Ric Flair, who came out and joined Jon Stewart in the ring too, before Cena got out there and dropped Stewart on his head, which was pretty convincing too. The line about, I'm sorry to all those parents who had to console their children last night for the mean little old man and why he did that to John Cena.
Yeah, exactly. That was a great line because it again acknowledged the fact that the people watching, like the kids watching, aren't going to know who he is. He was more there for the adults, right?
Yeah.
He was a great and committed celebrity addition to the show. And the fact that he took that attitude adjustment pretty hard. Jon Stewart's not a big man.
No.
And he's quite a frail older fellow. I was thinking, geez. I mean, it's a good thing he doesn't have to go and do the Daily Show tonight.
Yeah. Well, and kudos to WWE. It's a weird little production thing, but I thought it was very respectful. They kept the camera on him till he got up and walked out.
Yeah, they did, didn't they? And they really took the time to have him sell it. So yeah, thumbs up to Jon Stewart. He was committed. He followed through, and he was actually a benefit to the show. I can't say there's too many celebrity guests that they've had that were, but he was a benefit to both the SummerSlam show and the Raw show. Yep. So thumbs up to Jon Stewart. The rest, go ahead.
I was gonna say we might need to get through Raw a little quicker. I'm just looking at time here.
Of course, yes.
Bit. Just to get through, like, Raw was there was a lot of bullet points, but very important stuff.
Yeah,
get through.
Exactly. It was bullet points. It wasn't necessarily big matches or big angles, but a few things happened here. I'm going to do one, and then I'm going to turn the second one over to you. Okay. One was during the New Day Lucha Dragons match. First of all, we got another great New Day promo. They came out while Xavier Woods actually playing the trombone of all things.
Oh my God.
New York, New York.
So awesome.
And then keeps his trombone at ringside and doing the throughout the whole match. Loved it. But the big point of this is that at the end of the match, the music hits, and none other than the Dudley Boys, the actual Dudley Boys, folks, Bubba Ray and Devon, come walking down the aisle to challenge the New Day. And apparently they are back full time.
It looks that way.
Could you have seen this happening, Sean? I mean, crazy.
There were rumblings a few weeks ago about stuff going around the internet, but I'm like, no, they can't do this now. But sure enough, they did. The crowd went crazy. Everybody wins because I believe that the Dudleys are healthy, and it'll be a good run for them too.
Hey, buddy, what's up?
Hello.
Hi. Hey, guys, how's it going?
Good. This is Luke Force on the line, folks, joining us from a remote location. We've been through the main shows. We're just talking through Raw, but we've only just talked about the reveal of the Dudley Boys. Do you want us to finish our Raw review before you give your SummerSlam wrap, or do you want to jump in right now?
Well, again, I don't have too much time here, guys. I'm actually just sitting in a carpool here right now. There's a guy beside me. He just pulled out some moisturizer or something like that, a.k.a. a tub of lube. So I think I need to wrap it up, and quite frankly, I think he needs to wrap it up as well. So we're just going to quickly go through this weekend. What a great weekend, first of all, for wrestling and for the WWE. They feel much hotter coming out of this weekend than they have in quite some time. I've had a lot of people. Sean, you and I often talk about this kind of stuff. The people that reach out to you to talk about wrestling that don't usually reach out to you. Have you had any of those?
I have, all weekend, even leading up to Sunday. I told a little story earlier about I had to hold up my iPhone on FaceTime during the Stephen Amell tag match.
Who are you doing that for, your cousin?
I had to do that for my cousin Chris. We were on FaceTime, Chris. And I had to hold up the phone to the TV so he could see Stephen Amell wrestle.
And it's not even Goldberg. Can you believe it?
No, it's not even Goldberg.
So, yeah, Stephen Amell is what brought him in. But, yeah, guys, I mean, it was a great 3 days. Unfortunately, that did not reflect in the Raw ratings coming out of SummerSlam. But as far as, NXT goes on Saturday night, how cool was it? How cool was it to see the WWE debut of Jushin Thunder Liger opening the NXT show? Liger is now scheduled for a bunch more dates, or at least a handful more dates with WWE. He has told a lot of the promotions that he works with, because as you guys know, Liger in New Japan travels more than anybody. He does more international matches than anybody at the age of 50. So he's constantly in various indies and all this stuff. So he has contacted a lot of people saying he wouldn't be available because it would conflict with his WWE dates. So that's pretty interesting, the relationship with New Japan and WWE. You guys probably also heard that Nakamura, Okada was up in a private box with Samoa Joe. Various other people, Tiger Hattori was there. New Japan in full effect at SummerSlam. So that's pretty sweet. Jushin Liger obviously could not get his, the super cool theme that he has from the original anime show, which is what they've based the Liger character on. So they had some kind of WWE-fied generic version, but whatever, that was cool. But they just loved him. Backstage, he's just the guy that you want around. And I think that's really, more than anything, why they want to book him so many more times, because he comes in there and he will give you whatever you want. We all know, we've seen Liger all the time recently in ROH, New Japan. We know what he's capable of, and this was him saying, okay, I'll give you a nice little opener. Other stuff from that show, and I say girls, not divas. I'll give you a little thought on that in a second too, because that's kind of been a topic that everyone wants to hit on this week. And, I mean, truthfully, Sasha and Bayley had the best wrestling match of the entire 3 days.
I agree.
Wow,
I would agree,
that would be pretty accurate.
And, you know, we've talked about this on the air, and we'll continue to really hammer this home. When you're talking about two athletes such as them, wrestlers such as them, a great babyface, a great heel, they're just great wrestlers. And that is what the Divas Revolution is on NXT. It's great wrestlers. Whereas on Raw, there's a revolution in sports, and it's women. And ladies and gentlemen, can you believe it? Women are finally here, and they're ready to take over. Night and day, the Divas Revolution of NXT, which is great, to the Divas Revolution of Raw, which is bullshit. NXT, again, that match was incredible. Sasha is just one of the best wrestlers in the company. Bayley's definitely one of the best baby faces. It's also, you got to look at the build for that match. They really built that match up well. They put a lot of sympathy on Bayley. They built her up perfectly and built Sasha up perfectly as this bitch. Mind you, Sasha's getting more over as a babyface than almost any of the girls in the company right now.
With the exception of Becky.
Sasha's the hottest girl in the company. Sasha's the hottest girl in the company.
Yeah.
Over-wise. Forget wrestling-wise.
Yeah, okay.
Over-wise. She's the most. I mean, look at that segment from Raw.
Yeah.
Who were they chanting for?
Yeah, true.
You know, besides CM Punk. They were chanting for Sasha, who wasn't even in the ring. Yeah. So that show was a lot of fun. The main event was really good. I don't think it could touch the match before it. Both those guys, we know what they're capable of. I would say it was good. I mean, it was good. Prince Devitt, you guys know I was raving about him forever. I love these guys. But this match did feel to me a little bit indie-ish. And that's fine for NXT, and it got over good with the crowd, but not as good as, you know, it would have maybe if they didn't see what they'd seen in the match before. But, other stuff, I mean, Baron Corbin and Samoa Joe. I guess Joe is now moving on to a tag team with Balor, which I assume is going to split off into them wrestling for the title, which I'm super excited about that. For what that match was, I thought it was Baron Corbin's best match yet. I think that he's got potential as a talker, and he's got potential as a talent. He's quite bad in the ring right now. But I thought Joe did a great job with him. And, if they're slow with him and they take their time, I think they can maybe have something there. If they rush him onto the main roster, they're going to have real problems. They're going to have the ascension. But another thing, big highlight for me from NXT TakeOver, and I don't know how much you guys talked about this, but the in-ring debut, I believe, of Uhaa Nation, who is now going by the name, what do they got? What's the WWE name?
Apollo Crews.
Apollo Crews, yep. And I thought, this is a guy, he's from this same cool-ass clique of Ricochet and Pac before he was a WWE guy, and Jack Evans. And, there's this cool young crew of high flyers that are just tearing up the indies right now, tearing up all kinds of places, New Japan, Lucha Underground. And Uhaa Nation's one of those guys. Vince is going to maybe he already did. I don't know if he's seen TakeOver, but my Lord, Vince is going to lose his mind when he sees this guy.
Yeah, we said the same thing earlier.
Right. The difference with him, though, and that's usually a bad thing, and we usually worry about that. Yes, the difference with him is Uhaa Nation's not green. He's not a new wrestler. Bobby Lashley, when he came up and was discovered, he was like super green. They way rushed it. He didn't have any personality, et cetera, et cetera. With Uhaa Nation or Apollo Crews, that's kind of like the opposite. He's been around for a while. He's been in Dragon Gate USA, worked all these different styles. He's got a good look, good talker, fairly good anyway. So big time potential for him. Now let's go on to SummerSlam. Just a few thoughts. Did you guys like the performance of Stephen Amell?
Yeah, I think we said that Stephen Amell really surprised us in a very positive
impressive
way. Yeah.
Very impressive, right? This guy is an athlete, obviously. So he was like super impressive for a celebrity crossover. What did your cousin think of the performance, or what he saw on the phone anyway?
You gotta remember, we're dealing with somebody that just wants to see the celebrity wrestle. So he was disappointed that Stephen Amell didn't do more.
Yeah.
I, on the other hand, thought you couldn't have booked him more perfectly, and you didn't damage any of the other guys.
No, you didn't. And again, he looked good. He looked strong for his, there were certain things, obviously. He's not a wrestler. Yeah. So he's one of these guys, the punches, the kicks, that kind of stuff didn't necessarily look any good at all. But I thought he impressed for what that match was. Other things from that show, they ate Roman Reigns alive again.
Yep.
Enjoyed the match. I thought it was pretty, kind of reminiscent of the Shield and the Wyatts in terms of just the sort of chaos that they are able to create. So I like that match. The crowd really hard on Roman again. But whatever. They got to find him a better character. This is the thing. I'm tired of the excuses for this guy. They need to find a way to make him likable. And it's not just that they're booing him because they're assholes. They're booing him because he's a dork. They're booing him because whether he's at the top right now or whether he's in the mid or whatever, he's still the guy they think is going to be the next John Cena. And you just haven't seen that yet. So to me, I do think that they need to figure the Roman Reigns thing out. I've seen him in many interviews. The guy's got a great personality. You've got to find a way, or he's got to find a way to make chicken salad out of the chicken shit. Look at the New Day. Look what they were handed, and look what they were able to do with it. I assume you guys spent a lot of time talking about them.
Yes, we did.
Yes, we did. Yes.
Unbelievable. Like, they're by far the highlight of pretty much every WWE show right now. And like I say, that was something that they were saddled with, and they were able to make it work. And right now, it's just completely on fire. It's funny that they were a babyface group that the fans turned heel, and then as soon as they shit on them, and then when the WWE decided to turn them heel and pull the trigger, they then became babyfaces with the crowd.
Yeah, but the crowd loves to hate them, or hates to love to hate them, or loves to hate to love them. I'm not sure what it is, but there's a balance that they found with these guys where as heels, they're awesome and funny, and you can love them. Take those same guys and make them face. I'm not sure they'd love them as much. So I think that.
Well, I guess they're still heel. Yeah, they still kind of do little things to
they do
put
all
down
the
the
heel
crowd
stuff and get booed, which is great.
Yeah.
Like the tights and the teasing the New Age Outlaws finish in the tag match at SummerSlam.
Right. Yeah, I guess I just find it hard to take them as heels because they come out and they're like the hottest thing on the show besides Brock.
But
now we'll
heels.
talk about destined to be baby faces before, definitely before the end of 2016. Cena and Rollins was incredible. They tore it up. Seth Rollins in that performance, if you saw that performance, I think you'd pretty much feel like he's the best, most spectacular main event, big-time wrestler in North America right now. I don't think there's anybody that can really touch him when he's firing on all cylinders like he was at SummerSlam. Of course, the finish was goofy. But it's WWE. It's entertainment, guys. Don't take it so seriously, man.
But they justified the finish the next night.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure. It's very strategic. Everything WWE does, for the most part, is strategic. Sometimes it's an asinine strategy, but on this night, the strategy is, let's get the news to pick this thing up. Let's do it earlier in the show, and let's have Jon Stewart cost Cena the match and get us some publicity out of it. That's all it was. Yeah. Now, you can argue all day about whether that should be taking place, in your world title match. I would say it shouldn't, but that was why they did it. Other stuff, that Owens and Cesaro, guys worked their asses off. Hard-hitting match. It was a good SmackDown main event. And
really?
that's not, again, that's for its position on the card. It was perfect. Those guys in that spot, although I do believe they should be higher, they're the perfect guys right now for that mid-card. They've really kind of freshened it up in a lot of ways. And putting them, in the semi-main, I thought was pretty cool. I mean, that wasn't the death spot.
No.
Like, the Divas got the death spot, right? But Cesaro and Owens, they got a nice semi-main spot. And, again, good match. If you watched it on mute, I think you'd like it a lot more because the crowd really wasn't into it. And, this was sort of where our argument came into play because you guys were saying that this was match of the night by far and Taker and Brock was meh. And I guess to me, I still feel like the crowd doesn't play any part in how good a match gets rated. I don't know about that. I feel like the art of controlling a crowd was a lot more there with Taker and Brock. If you watch those matches back-to-back and then tell me that the one before was match of the night, I don't know. I have a hard time with that. Taker and Brock, to me, was great. It had a good story all the way through. And Luigi Tyrone's probably cleaning out his ears right now because he's not used to me being so positive about WWE. But SummerSlam was great. And I know we got to wrap this up, so I'll just make this quick. But, of course, Taker's too old. Of course, he should have retired probably a couple years ago. Of course, this should be the end. And I do truly believe Mania coming up here in Texas is the end. But if you just want to look at that match and judge it for what it was, I thought Taker looked really good. The story from the beginning of them fighting before the bell started and then breaking off and starting again, I just thought, it's everything that sports entertainment should be. It's two big, larger-than-life guys. Sure, maybe there were times when Taker looked old and tired, but he's old and he's tired. And for the story that they're doing, I thought it worked. The story, of course, and I know this was one of Shan's big ones, is that the story is wacky. And on paper, it makes absolutely no sense. With that said, listen to the crowd from beginning to end of that match, because the crowd didn't feel that way. The crowd felt like this is great. And it's one of those weird things in wrestling where on paper it shouldn't make sense. But I don't think there's any way that someone can tell me that Brock coming out of SummerSlam match with Taker is less hot than he was before. I feel like he's at the exact same level. The match was physical, Brock with the blood, and the finish was very clever. I hate probably 9 out of 10 WWE fuck finishes. You guys know that. But this one seemed to have some really well thought out planning behind it. It came off perfectly. It could have been missed time, but it wasn't. Taker tapped, before when the ref didn't see it. The ref was just counting the shoulder. He wasn't even paying attention to the tap. The timekeeper, from seeing the ref do that, just automatically thought he was, calling for the bell. And then you had that whole moment of weirdness. And Taker, again, I don't know what's going on, but I'm intrigued. The low blows, the heel-like tendencies, I don't know what they're doing. And again, Taker shouldn't be around anymore. And you guys know they should have built new stars by now. They should have had new guys on top by now, but they don't. And if you can't watch a performance for what it is without thinking about that, you're going to have a hard 5 years, because I guarantee this is not going to stop anytime soon. This stops when Triple H is crippled. This stops when John Cena, after going away and doing movies, comes back and then, becomes, 50 years old. This is not anything that's going to change anytime soon. Triple H has a great philosophy for making new talent. Vince doesn't. Vince has lost his touch a long time ago for making new stars. So you got to just watch this for what it was. For what it was, I thought the match was really good, and it got over, did everything, protected Brock, and it's setting up one more match where I assume Brock retires them. I don't know if that's what you guys think. And I mean, it obviously is telling that these guys are so much more over than everyone else on the roster. There's a lot of reasons behind that, and again, it comes back to everything I said. They haven't never brought anyone else up to that level. But that's a bigger issue. Bigger issue, but this is what you got to get used to, because it's not going to change anytime soon. And this has been the year that I've really come to terms with that. So that's my thought on that. And I'm not going to really talk about Raw. Like, there were cool things, but I just wanted, on that tip, talk about Sting, and then you guys can close it off here. Again, Sting probably shouldn't be wrestling anymore. With that said, Seth Rollins, in his smaller guy, heel world champion role, I like the idea of sometimes defending it against an old guy. Obviously, you don't do it all the time, but for this one, I don't think there's anyone that believes Sting is going over on Rollins.
No, and I think Rollins is actually going to get some really good experience and exposure out of it. I think it's it's a good benefit for Rollins. I mean, who else is he going to fight right now? It's a nice, fresh mix, and yes, it's not going to be an ongoing feud. It'll probably be one match, and hopefully then it splinters off. If Sting wants to finish things up with Triple H, that's fine. But
sure. Yeah. Rollins really should be sort of the guy out there bouncing around for everybody and really making a convincing match out of anybody. To me, the intrigue of this main event coming up, first of all, it's ridiculous that Sting got a world title shot when he only had one WWE match and he lost it.
I was thinking, I think we should try and put this practice, into action. If you're actually at a WWE event, all you need to do is hide behind a curtain until someone finds you and you get a title shot. Let's see if we can actually make that happen. Folks, if you're listening, if you're at a live event, hide behind a curtain until someone finds you and tell them that you deserve a title shot.
Yeah, right. So again, logic-wise, completely retarded. The idea that they're still returning to the past to get big-time stars that actually bring some attention, because, again, the Sting thing brought a lot more attention than saying, Cesaro was fighting Seth Rollins or this, that, and the third. He should be defending against everybody month by month, and then he should also be defending against like a legend like Sting, who, for what he did on Monday, I thought he looked good. Now, will he look good in the match with Rollins? I think Rollins can carry him to a really good match. And like Shan says, although Sting's 56, there's still a lot of little subtleties he can teach you from his experience. So it might be a nice little polishing school for Seth. So that's what I feel about that.
And I agree with all of that. I will make one minor change. Do you think they can do the thing where Seth defends the U.S. title on TV and the world title on the Night of Champions?
I think Jay Lethal's rolling his eyes somewhere, to be perfectly honest. But
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know if they. I think that Seth's reign as U.S. champion will be short-lived. I think they'll find a way to get it off of him. But I hope it goes back to Cena. He did such a good job. Look, guys, we got to be out of here in just a couple of minutes. Sean, I know we just wanted to talk about two more things quickly. Yeah. One was we've got a new member of the Wyatt family. Braun Strowman, apparently, is his name. Made his debut. So it looks now like the Wyatts have 3. Roman and Dean have 2. Who's joining Dean and Roman?
I have no clue. And I hope somebody in WWE does, because I don't know. They better find a third quick.
You know, the weird thing was that this Braun dude actually looked like a really big version of Sam from Game of Thrones to me. And I was looking at his face, I was like, wow, that's weird. He's like a giant Bray Wyatt or something. Big guy, I don't know. Have you ever seen him wrestle before?
No, I have not.
Judging on the simplicity of his finisher, I'm assuming he's probably just a bit of a lump, but I guess we'll see what happens.
He's so green that they wouldn't even put him on NXT.
Okay, I figured. Because
they didn't even trust him to be on NXT TV, so he has just been called up straight ahead. I guess, like we just talked about, they should have called up Wuhan Nation.
Yeah, that's true. If he could quickly grow a beard and long hair, they could have put him with the Wyatts. So
there you go. So from myself, the Grandmaster Luke Force, I want to say peace, love, wrestling, audio revolution, and you guys have a great day.
Sean, are we done? I think we've pretty much covered everything.
I think we covered everything. The other thing I did want to mention was the Diva thing, exactly what Luke said. The girls got really mad at the crowd in Brooklyn, and after I saw things on Twitter on Tuesday morning, one thing I'll say, I think the night after SummerSlam is paralleled now to the night after WrestleMania.
Yeah, I agree too.
You disregard that crowd, I think.
Yeah, you get a different crowd the night after SummerSlam, especially the night after this SummerSlam, which was honestly almost as good as a WrestleMania. As I said, they packed that 4 hours full of content, quality content. So yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about that audience. But as Luke said, what you're seeing on WWE is a weird translation of what you're seeing on NXT, and I don't know how that's going to play out as long as the WWE established divas are not able to compete with the NXT divas. So listen, Sean, I wanted to tell you what a pleasure it was doing this show with you. Super Show 4. I think we covered a lot of stuff, and I think I personally had a lot of fun. This
has been so much fun. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm sure we'll do more of these and other combinations. We'll have to see what happens down the road.
Right on, man. So it's like, if this was a first date, I'm going to get a call back.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Right on, buddy. That's what I love to hear, man.
Oh, my gosh.
Well, look, I hope that our sound guy can cue up that New Day music for us to go out on, because I think that's just the right tone. But listen, folks, it's been a pleasure. This is Shotgun Shan, the king of salsa dancing, saying good night to you. And for the Commissioner Sean Cunningham, let me say, for the first time I've ever been able to say this, peace, love, and wrestling audio revolution.
Got the power in the palm of my hand, given the chance, And when it seems everything's wrong and the pressure is on, that's when it's time to be strong. Just look in the mirror and wipe your face. Step up to the plate, cause it's time to be great. So come on and embrace the new day. Come on and live life a new way. Don't stop till you reach the top, and while them haters keep hating, you'll be winning a race.
O'Grady's Grill and Bar, combining delicious American food with Irish warmth and hospitality. There's always an O'Grady to welcome you. O'Grady's incorporates the freshest ingredients into signature dishes like braised lamb shepherd's pie, fish and chips, hand-cut steaks, and the best burgers in Stowe. Enjoy O'Grady's cozy full-service bar featuring 14 beers on tap and specialty cocktails. O'Grady's is the perfect place for après-ski or dinner for the family.